let's play Ask a Texas Tech Fan.
Oh, gosh.
4 questions. I think they're all pretty good.
Okay.
The first one, Adam Boedeker. How good should Texas Tech football be? What is their theoretical ceiling that they should live at, realistically?
You talking about like a one-off great year or
No, because we
consistently,
if you're a Texas Tech fan, based on their resources, based on what they're up against, based on their history, what's the average season that would be like, you know what, we're doing great?
lots of my friends who I went to school with would probably get mad at me for saying this, but I think me, like you said, being a journalist, covering the team at the school paper and being ingrained in us to like be unbiased, and I actually did a really good job of that, and I think it kind of jaded me to the fan side of it until recent years. I've kind of gotten back into it, but I think 8 wins is a good year for Tech football, like a really good year. I think that's kind of what, if they win 8 games and they go to the Alamo Bowl, then I'm probably going to be pretty happy. Like if that can be like a consistent, 7-8 win Alamo Bowl type team, that's good.
That's good enough.
I think so.
That's like, hey, if
that's
we're living
realistic.
there, that's great for us.
Right. Every now and then you can have a year like 2008 when you got Michael Crabtree and Graham Harrell.
Right.
You
go on
get
a
up to
magical
number
run.
2 in the nation, and then you get bombed by Oklahoma.
Right.
That was fun while it lasted, but it
Right.
ended up not being legit, I guess, because they did get bombed by Oklahoma. But
We
it
don't
was a
talk about that.
really
It's
fun
okay.
year. Really fun year. That was the most fun year of college football I've ever had.
But then at the same time, if you're accepting that, there'll be a bad season here or there, a 5-7, whatever,
Mhm.
Everything goes wrong. Okay. Second question.
Okay.
All right. You're Kirby Hocutt.
Okay.
How do you assess Kingsbury thus far as a head coach?
This is the tricky question because I'll tell you, when he was hired, I was super excited. And I knew when he was hired, I knew that he wasn't ready to be a head coach yet. I think everyone kind of knew that, but it was like you get him now or you wait till he's ready and then he goes
Somewhere better. Right. How dare you admit there's somewhere better than Texas Tech?
I know.
They'll never allow you back in Lubbock.
I know. But, it's hard to say you would look at him positively right now. I mean, especially coming off this past season and just seeing the recruiting classes he's brought in. And, a couple of them looked good on paper, but then a lot of those guys have left before they've ever played.
Right.
And, it's just the results aren't there. He's had his first year. I think they started 6-0, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome!" And then they started playing the good teams in the Big 12, and I think they lost 5 straight to end the year. I think he is a great coordinator, great quarterback coach. I just don't know if I've heard from some high school coaches also that his personality is just kind of weird, like recruiting wise. He's kind of a different guy. I went to school at the same time as him. I don't really claim I was friends with him or anything, but
Right.
I do know him
Right.
sort of, and he does have kind of a different personality. And I've heard from some coaches that kind of just plays weird to high school kids. And the thing was, oh, this guy's young, he's murdered out, he looks awesome, he wears black Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
He's gonna get all these kids
Shows up
to
in
come,
a fancy suit.
right?
Yeah.
And it hasn't really worked out that way. And I think some of that might be that personality thing. And it also killed him when they lost Sonny Cumbie to TCU. He was a really good recruiter.
Right.
And I think that ever since then, that's kind of where it's started to go downhill as far as recruits go.
So here's my ultimate
I
question.
don't know if I answered your question or not.
You sort of did,
Okay.
but we're going to just go and dive further into this question.
Okay.
Right? This is something Tepper and I have talked about on the show. I know you've heard me make this point. You are Kirby Hocutt, and you have maybe the best offensive mind in college football as your head coach.
Right.
You also have a head coach who turns in consistently the worst defenses in the country.
Correct.
How do you reconcile that? Because to me, am I going to give up the hometown guy, this great offensive mind who will make sure that we score points, for a guy, for a new staff, and let's be honest, a mid-level job in the Big 12,
right,
to kind of average out in the middle somewhere, and maybe you win a few more games, but are you going to win a lot more games? So this is the question for me.
Yeah, this has long been my thing. I've talked to friends about it. Like, if you say Hocutt fires Kingsbury,
right?
What's he going to get? Like, he's not going to go get name some really good, just solid coach that would come in Tech that is a good defensive mind.
Right.
Like, there's not one.
There isn't.
To get to win in Lubbock, you have to have a gimmick.
Yeah.
I mean, they had, and I'm afraid it may not ever get better than it was with Mike Leach.
Right.
And he was amazing. He did great things in that town for that university.
Mm-hmm.
Put him on the map, and he was kind of the same way. He never gave it, and he didn't care about defense either, but they won games for whatever reason. I think with Kingsbury, you have to have some kind of gimmick to win there, and you just kind of have to cross your fingers that you can stop people.
Right.
And, if they bring in some guy like we just talked about, then what are you going to do? You're going to become, no offense to you, but I've said this many times before. I'm not saying this just because you're here, but you're going to become Iowa State. Like,
how dare you? But you're right. You don't want to become Iowa State. Right. As an Iowa State fan, Texas Tech should never be Iowa State,
or Kansas, even though Kansas throws the ball around.
Right.
A lot
too and that's I think David Beatty's a great coach.
Right.
What he's doing at Kansas is kind of amazing because that's how bad they were.
Right.
Matt Campbell so far has looked really good as the Iowa State coach. It's not a knock on them.
Right.
But those guys are both getting hired as we're betting on these young, talented guys. And guess what? If they're good, they're probably going to leave.
Right.
Is that what you want at Tech? Right? You want –
No. That's not what –
Or do you – because that's kind of the bargain you're signing up for. Do you keep the guy who's got some things that work for Tech?
He's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun football to watch.
Right. People are talking about your coach.
Right.
It's not always good, but at the same time, you do have an interesting, young, dynamic head coach, right? People are talking about Tech more often than they would with Tuberville, right?
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
You've already done that experiment,
yes,
theoretically.
Exactly. That's a
Tuberville
great point.
is that middle-of-the-road guy.
Right, and you saw how it worked out. It was
right.
terrible.
So, but I'm sure there are some Tech fans right now, I wish Tuberville would have stayed, which is weird.
That's very weird.
Because at least with Tech, I get that the results across the board on it, but man, you've had some fun games.
Yeah, I'm looking at the game by game here this past season. They lost 45-44 to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
45-37 to Texas. 66-59 to OU. That was that ridiculous game.
Yes.
That was just infuriating to watch. Remember, Mahomes had 900 total yards or something. Right. They lost 44-38 to K-State, and another very frustrating game to watch. The second game of the year, they lost 68-55 to Arizona State. Those are games that if you play any semblance of defense,
right,
you're gonna
you
win
all of them, right?
And then you're 9-3, 9-2. It's just
really the only glaring spot is the Iowa State game,
right,
where they just did not show up.
It was just weird.
Quit. It was just weird. Yeah.
And that last game after that, they played Baylor, and Baylor had obviously quit.
Right.
And so it was who's going to win this
less?
game? Yeah. And obviously it was Baylor that cared less.
So, okay, we've discussed the ramifications of that question, but where do you personally come out?
On Kingsbury?
On Kingsbury.
What do I do?
Do you keep the gamble with we've got the hometown guy who plays the offense, or if the results stay this way, where do you actually draw a line and be like, I guess we got to do something different? Because to me,
well, you can't just keep him around forever. If he's not gonna, if they're not getting results, you got to make a change. I don't think that time is right now.
Right.
This coming year will be his 5th year, I think, 5th or 6th, not sure, but 5th. I think it's 5th. No, if you're asking me if I fire him right now, no, right. I don't.
I don't either, and I think a big part of that, sorry to interrupt you, I think a big part of that is being realistic about how hard it is to build and maintain something in Lubbock. Right. Any mid-level smaller school in the Big 12 or any college program, yes, it's been frustrating. There have been some high points. The defense is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
There are some coaches and some people who would tell you that Sorry, at a place like that, it's going to take 5 or 6 years to actually get things
Right.
leveled out.
And he's gone through 4 defensive coordinators.
Yeah,
That's a problem too.
Right.
This David Gibbs is the guy right now, and this past year was his second. That was the first time that DC had been there for more than 1 year, which is insane.
Yeah, and it's hard. I don't know. Gibbs as a defensive coach, I can't judge him because they haven't recruited the players for it to matter. I don't feel like, and even the good ones are like Fajoko's just leaving.
Yeah, because if you're a defensive player, do you really want to go there? Like, 'cause you're going to be on the field a ton. You're going to, it's a endemic cultural thing that's been there really since Leach was there. Now Leach had a couple of good years where they had a defense. Like that 2008 year, they had a really good defense that year. I think it was like 3rd or 4th in the Big 12, which that offense is plenty good enough to
makes
win
a difference.
games. Yeah. I think everyone says it's a cultural thing and writes it off as that, but I really think there's something to that.
Yeah.
It's when your head coach doesn't care about defense, do defensive stud recruits want to go play there?
Right.
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I've never been a defensive
stud
recruit, so I don't know what it's like, but I would guess that you're leaning somewhere else.
Maybe. I also think if this winter is a sign of anything to come, now you can tell me better than most people because you follow their recruiting classes. Excuse me. They've gone a heavy JUCO route this offseason. Have they done that the last 2 years? Has that been a thing? Because it seems heavier. This is a bigger class than most.
They've had
JUCO
a couple
guys.
of JUCO guys that have contributed,
but not like 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, and you know what? That could be some desperation.
Maybe it's desperation. Part of me wonders if that's the answer.
It might be. Some schools have done that.
You're not going to convince 17-year-olds that this is the cool place to play defense, but maybe you can take second chance guys who have done JUCO careers and had a nice little run and convince them that they can be your building block and go get the offensive guys from day one as 17-year-olds.
I could be wrong, but didn't Kansas State do that? And isn't that kind of how
Kansas State built their program? On JUCOs and guys that were overlooked as freshmen, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So like I said, it could be some desperation on Kingsbury's part,
right?
Or it could just be like you said, the way that he sees. Hey, maybe I can't get these top defensive high school kids, but I can go get these JUCO kids that want to keep playing and don't want their football career to end, and hopefully it could help.
It is a desperation move. You don't want to go that route, but part of me wonders if that's just the solution, right? Like
at least temporarily,
temporarily, like we just need to get experienced bodies who play good defense in here. Maybe it's not against the same kind of competition, but we just need experienced bodies because we need to catch up on the curve,
right?
Because, like we talked about going into last year, if they could have just had the 90th best defense in the country, they probably go like 8 or 9. They win 8 or 9 games. So, okay. This is both happier and sadder as a question.
Okay.
We'll close it out with this. How do you feel about the quarterback situation in 2017?
Oh, God.
Well, hey, okay, calm down. Calm down. You lost a great quarterback.
Yes.
That's the oh, God.
Yes.
Let's not start slating everyone before we actually seen them play significant time.
Shimonette came into that.
He had one great game. Was Kansas State?
He finished the Kansas game, and then
Kansas finished Kansas and looked good.
I think Mahomes came back and started the next week and couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
They never left. They never took him out. I'm pretty sure he only played for a half, Shimonette, but he threw like 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Again, granted, it was against Kansas, but he looked really good.
Right.
For whatever it's worth, Mahomes has talked great about the guy. He said he's ready. What else is he going to say? But
it looks the part of a Texas Tech quarterback. He's tall, big, lots of tattoos.
Right.
Looks like a problem child.
Did he come from Iowa State?
Iowa. How dare you?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I will be honest, before we even go into the season, I'm naturally biased against him.
Yeah.
Although perhaps I should give him credit for leaving Iowa. Getting there and realizing his mistake.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah.
Because I'd hang out in Lubbock before I hung out in Iowa City.
Come
on.
No, but I think he showed he can play in the system. I mean, obviously he knows the system. He's been there for 4 years now, 3 or 4. And everyone always says it's a system offense, and it is. Mahomes was the rare guy that is going to go on and be a pretty high NFL draft pick, which has never happened with a Tech quarterback.
Sure.
But if he could go run the system and he's got an arm, they might be fine. Who knows? The bigger thing I think is the receivers. They
Yeah, because Sadler just retired, right?
Right. And last year, they just didn't have that go-to guy.
Right.
All their receivers were 5'9", 5'10" inside receivers. Like, you can't win football games with that.
You've got to have someone to throw it up to.
You've got to have some
Right.
6'3", 6'4" guys that can jump and get balls. And they just didn't have that last year. And
you're going to need it to help whoever the quarterback is
Right.
at this point. Like, Mahomes can make magic happen, but this is a little different.
Right.
Okay.
So
you don't feel good is what you're saying.
I mean, like you said, I don't feel great because Mahomes is gone and he was awesome. But, you know, it could be worse. I mean, at least we've seen the guy and we've been able to see on a small sample size what he can do, and it was good.
Right.
So,
and then in the younger guys, I know Duffy got suspended by the school, but not by the football team. And supposedly we'll be back for football in the fall.
That's the word.
Okay.
You know, who knows? If I've heard some wild stuff about what he was suspended for, is all rumors. If what I heard was true, I don't know if he'll ever be back. But you know, who knows?
He was tremendous in high school.
He was.
I mean, we named him Mr. Texas Football.
And
so
I heard last year that they were really big on him. You know, they were really excited about him.
Well, he's everything that Kingsbury says he wants. Right. He extends plays well. He throws well. I mean, like he feels pressure well.
He seems a little short.
It's funny you say that. I thought that too, but standing next to him, he's bigger than you think.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if he can come back, then obviously, I think the job is probably Shimonek's this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then, you know, you let Duffy
or whoever
learn,
one of the younger guys,
you know, and play next year. But I think Shimonek's is going to be a senior. I think, not sure, but you know, it's not the worst thing, you know. And like I said, in that system, you don't have to have a fantastic quarterback. I mean, I've seen them win 10 games with Cody Hodges as their quarterback.
Hey, how
and
dare you?
Cody Hodges is a very nice guy, and you know he was a
but he's not Mahomes.
Heavily overlooked high school guy out of Hereford, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and he went on and had a great career at Tech, and they've had a lot of guys like that. So you don't need to have a 5-star recruit, but you know, it obviously helps. So
fair enough.